Well, good morning, campers, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Camp Cryptid. I am your host, Erica Fett, and this week I have a fun little Q&A session that I'm going to be doing for today's episode. I had patrons on Patreon submit some questions that they had for me, and I thought it'd be kind of a fun little episode to kind of reel back and just enjoy this week, talking some cryptids and questions, and I thought it would be really fun, especially after last week's episode of Sawney Bean and the legend of Sawney Bean, those crazy cannibals of Scotland, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to just kind of sit back and enjoy this week before getting into all of the fun cryptids. So this week, we're going to do a little Q&A. So basically on Patreon, I asked if you had any questions, like it could be anything from like cosplaying to my modeling to cryptids. And I had a great amount of questions. So let's get started. So my first question is from Robert. And Robert said, would be cool to hear about how you started and a day in the life kind of thing. Keep up the good work. Appreciate all of the content. So how I got started. Oh my goodness. So I always say one of my earliest memories of even cryptids in general was when I was little. I remember being at my grandmother's house and I remember watching Harry and the Hendersons, and I just remember being devastated by the ending. Spoiler alert. But this movie was from the 80s, so not really spoiler, but spoiler. And at the end, we know he goes back in the woods. I was like devastated. I was like, this is so sad. I wanted him to stay with the humans. Like, so I have always had a love for monsters, and, horror has been something that I have cosplayed over the years. I've done, Freddy shoots. I've done Chucky. I've done Vampirella, which I was on the cover of Vampirella Comics for the 50th anniversary issue 1. So that was a huge highlight for my career. But I've done things for like sci-fi and stuff too. So like, as a lot of you know, Erica Fett, I am a big fan of Boba Fett. And so I kind of played off of that. And at the time I was a licensed bounty hunter for the state of Ohio with what I did for my job. So I kind of just played on that. And kind of a little fun fact, yeah, I was a bounty hunter. I never bounty hunted anybody because I'm like, that's crazy, but I could do it if I needed to. So I kind of played off of that. As far as, the podcast, COVID kind of hit, and I always kind of considered doing something that was kind of a step back from modeling. I don't mind getting, makeup and stuff every day. But for me, I kind of just like not wearing makeup and just kind of living my life and just existing. So being, able to do a podcast was kind of a way I could still be creative, but not have this pressure to like look a certain way, which I think was really, really refreshing for something that I had done for 15 years. Now, with that being said, I'm going to lead into Mike's question. Would love to hear all about you, your pets, your husband, how you got into modeling, etc. Just to get to know Erica episode. So like I said, I have been modeling ever since, oh my God, it's been like 15 years now. And I started modeling for a website that was for like tattooed girls. And I actually started that when I was getting my master's degree. It was kind of just like a side thing. I'm always the type of person who I'll try anything. I always go in, I love new adventures, and it was completely unexpected. If you would have told me when I was in college that I would be modeling or anything, I'd be like, you're crazy. Like, no way. I just have always kind of liked being in those situations where I get to kind of like, I don't know, be outgoing and have new adventures. And so with that being said, I got into modeling and just kind of did a boudoir shoot with no expectations, but I was like, this is kind of fun. Like, and it made me feel very empowered, especially because like, having tattoos, it was like really nice to feel embraced, and it was very empowering for me. So basically, with that being said, I met my husband. Oh my goodness. His sister introduced us, and I met my husband almost 11 years ago, 12, almost going on 12. But we dated for about a year, and then I joked around about eloping, and then we eloped, and here we are still to this day. And it's kind of wonderful because I describe him as my yin to my yang. Like, I am very like talkative and outgoing, and he is very like rational. I'm not saying I can be irrational, I guess, but he is very like, he's a listener, and he really balances me out. And I have so many fun adventures with him, and he has just been so supportive every step of the way. day. And, I try to return that and be just as supportive back. And it just really works out. He's my best friend, and he entertains me being obsessed with all these creepy things and watches so many horror movies with me. And he just is awesome. So I'm sure a lot of you have also met him at conventions I'm at, because he's usually at the booth with me. So I know, like, if I go to C2E2 or New York Comic Con, San Diego Comic Con, a lot of you have met Jay. So you've met him, you know who he is, and he's just so wonderful. And my pets, oh my goodness. So I live in an area where unfortunately a lot of pets get abandoned. And so I, being the weirdo that I am, I take them all in. So I always joke around that my house is a petting zoo, but I do have 8 cats and 2 dogs. And I know it seems like a lot, but honestly, it's just so cohesive, and it is so wonderful to have so many animals. And there's no cat and dog rivalry. Have a lot of possums in my yard. I constantly have like little salt blocks for the deer. I am a person who loves being in nature, and every day I just appreciate it. So yeah, so that's a little bit about an intro for me. Now, the next question is going to be from Mr. Magoo Samurai, and they asked, if you got stranded on a deserted island, which album, movie, and luxury item would you want to be stranded with? So I would be in between as far as albums. Oh my goodness. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to tell you right now, off the top of my head, I'm going to say this. And then five hours later, I'm going to tell you five other things are going to pop in my head and be like, why didn't I say this? Immediately off the top of my head, I would say either The Killer's Hot Fuss as an album, because I absolutely love that entire album. It's so good. Alanis Morissette, Jagged Little Pill would also be one, because that was one of my favorite albums growing up, and it just has every layer of emotion you could ever imagine. But probably The Killer's Hot Fuss. As far as luxury item, probably a radio, because I live off of music. Like, I could definitely go off of music in my mind. I'd probably go a little insane. But having a radio, like some kind of like FM radio to just like listen to music would probably be fine. I would be in paradise if I had that. Like, no joke. As far as movie, Bram Stoker's Dracula, hands down. I love that movie. I will watch that movie every single day of my life. The costuming, the cast, the entire set. I'm obsessed with that entire movie. And who doesn't love a love story about a woman and a monster, right? Like, come on. Like, hands down. The next question is going to be from Gregory. And Gregory asked, what cryptid would you like to actually meet face to face? Now, I always talk about Bigfoot encounters, right? And I'm a big Bigfoot fan. Like, I love the idea of humans and like some kind of hominid creature coexisting. And so that's why I think in my mind, I play up this like Bigfoot thing. I would honestly love to know that Bigfoot exists. Like, to just know that there is something out there we need to protect, and just to know it exists would be amazing. However, it's like, on one hand, it's like, okay, this could be some kind of cannibal feral creature that's just gonna like maul me, right? Or on the other hand, he's just gentle, and he's like a gentle giant. And that's kind of what in my mind I think I like think of. So, it could be one of two ways, right? But also Mothman, right? Mothman in all the stories, like, and especially with Bigfoot too, like these animals, other than like Bigfoot throwing rocks or whatever, which we don't even know if it was really a Bigfoot throwing rocks. Mothman was seen by multiple people, but never really like hurt anyone. And so like, to me, I'm like, I think it's easy to have like fear, right? I think it's easy to be like, oh no, it's like, I don't know what it is, and have this fear, but sometimes you just got to have faith, right? And like, know that like, not everything's out to harm you. So I think that in my mind, I'm like, oh no, they're like sweet. They're like Pokemon, right? But no, I don't know. Either one of those, Mothman or Bigfoot, would definitely be my choice, because I think that both of those are really cool. Also, I like the idea of the Flatwoods Monster, because I would love to meet an alien. Like, I know this sounds so crazy, and maybe it's just me watching and living off of like sci-fi, or maybe being Mass Effect addicted and like having to like romance everybody in the game, right? But I love the idea of like coexisting with different species, especially of like intelligent species. Like, how amazing would that be? Like, how many things and how many viewpoints would that open up? And I just love the possibility of that. So yeah. In short, I want to meet everything, right? That would be, except maybe like the Jabafo because like that thing is terrifying. And that's the giant spider out of the Congo, because sometimes with like insects, you're like, does that thing have like a brain where it's like thinking anything other than eat, sleep, and make a web, right? But yeah, so those are my choices. Now, Felix, for the next question, asked, will Camp Cryptid ever do a collab episode with a similar podcast? And my answer to that is absolutely. There are so many great podcasts that I love and so many enthusiastic podcast creators that there's no way I wouldn't want to do it. I love Bigfoot Society, Monsters Among Us, Talking Scared, The King Cast. There are literally so many great podcasts out there. And my thing is I am so excited to do interviews. I will just say, like, I just want to make sure it's done right. And then I have all my setup and that I know what I'm doing, because I feel like, especially when I first started podcasting, and you're figuring out audio setups and you're figuring out the entire setup because it's all brand new to me, right? I've been really taking my time with waiting to do interviews until I know exactly what setup I'm going to use, like if it's going to sound good. And like it's one of the things I'm so excited to do. Honestly, I'm so excited to do interviews, but I just want to make sure that I have everything like squared away for it. So with that being said, that is my goal, is to do exactly what I'm doing right now, still do cryptid episodes, still do like themed episodes, but I'd also like to do like supplemental episodes with like interviews with people. So that is absolutely the goal. I would absolutely love to collab. I have met so many wonderful, kind people in the podcasting community. And honestly, like, go listen to more podcasts, like go support more creators, because it is such a fun community. And I would absolutely love to collab with them. So absolutely yes, Felix, absolutely yes. Now, Felix also had a second question. So that question is, also, out of all horror media, folklore, eyewitness accounts, or personal experiences, what has terrified you the most and why? I did an episode on sea creatures, and I stand by this 100% that some of the most terrifying creatures, I think, have to do with the ocean. The giant squid or kraken is probably the thing that most terrifies me, because there are actual accounts of giant tentacles literally ripping sailors off of decks. There was a sailor in World War II that I talked about who had a giant tentacle come out and it attached to his leg, and it literally ripped half of his like skin off. And he had scars that were from those suckers on the giant tentacles. And that just really terrifies me, because like the ocean is so vast and it's so incredible. I just think that there are so many things we don't know about it as well. And it's foreign to us, right? Like we can't survive in the ocean. So it also adds this layer of, the unknown. So the giant kraken for sure. However, side note, I will say I woke up and was reading Reddit this morning, and there were some personal testimonies from rangers back in the 1970s about the Appalachian Mountains. And basically they talked about how it is known in those areas that there are like feral clans of people, and they're cannibals that basically live in the mountains. So like mountain people. And the idea of that always terrifies me, because to me, cannibalism is like the worst thing you can do to another human. And it's terrible. Like, especially when like I have books literally on like how to survive off of different plants and nuts and berries you can forage and mushrooms, different things you can forage. And it's like, why are we eating other people? But I think that idea just kind of scares me, just because it's like, you're in the middle of the woods, you can get lost, right? And then you add this extra layer of there being, there's cannibals. Pass. I'll pass. So yeah, those two things probably scare me the most. So the next question is going to be from AC. And AC said, I think a personal haunting story from you would be awesome. Like your first encounter of a spirit, cryptid, demon, etc. A first-hand account of anything that truly upset you down to your core the first time you knew you witnessed. Age 4 for myself, hospital spirits. So what I always like to say is, like, whether you really truly believe in spirits or not, I believe that every single human can feel energies, right? Whether it be like a gut feeling or the hairs on your arms or the back of your neck standing up, right? There's different things that can tell you. And I think once you're open to realizing that and feeling it and realizing that's what it is, then you'll start to be feeling these encounters a bit more, right? So I've always had weird experiences, even since I was little, from house to house. Like I've talked previously about a house in the country that was like the Children of the Corn vibes, and we had tons of weird experiences there. But honestly, it wasn't until a trip, I think 2019 to Scotland, that I really truly felt something that made me feel very scared and nervous. Usually I'd say that like if I feel spirits, I always feel like it's just a comforting spirit, right? Because we have to realize like if it is a spirit, it's just a human. And not every human has bad intentions. Not saying that they don't, but not every human has bad intentions. And I think that I take that kind of thought into it when it comes to like the paranormal. But this experience that I had in Scotland was unlike anything I've ever had. And it was the first time I truly felt like something was negative around me. And we were staying in an Airbnb because I was shooting some stuff, like boudoir sets. And it was me and my friend, Neptune, who actually I had an episode with her earlier on, and we were staying at this Airbnb in Old Town, Scotland, Edinburgh. And for those of you who are aware, like Edinburgh is full of like history of like awful things, whether it be, you know, people trying to raid the city, to plagues, to fires that just spread in the underground tunnels. It has just been tragedy, right? And so the Old Town Scotland is basically where a lot of those tunnels exist. And honestly, it's where a lot of people have perished as well. So it does have a lot of resonance with spirits. But that night I was staying in a room and I was like kind of like on the outside left-hand side of the bed. And on basically my left-hand side, that door was kind of like if you're laying down at the foot of the bed, or if you're laying down, the door would have been towards my feet. And I always fall asleep to TV. So I had my laptop set up and I was watching Netflix and I fell asleep. And my husband's on the other side of the bed. Now, keep in mind on my husband's side of the bed, on the right-hand side, there was a window next to him about a foot away. And this window like opened up to this courtyard that looked kind of like creepy. So it's just in the middle of this like complex and it's just like this weird, creepy courtyard. And actually I have pics standing in front of this window because I did a set in the window. So I actually took I did 2 or 3 sets in this haunted place. Actually like 4 or 5, actually I lied. So like a lot. So I shot a lot in this place. But that night, I remember we went out to we did a haunted tour, right? We did a haunted tour of the underground. And we're walking through and it was very educational and it was very eerie. But I never really got like a weird feeling going in these underground tunnels. And when we get to the one place, a woman was talking about a ghost that had whispered in a woman's ear. And I was like, I just at that point had never experienced anything like literally talking to me. It's only just been like feelings, right? Or like glimpses out of your eye that you catch. And so I really didn't feel anything weird about that place. In fact, like I would even stay behind the group and go and take pictures because we were the last group that night. And as we were going through the tunnels, they had little candles we would blow out on the way. So it would be completely pitch dark behind us. So I would stay in those rooms after they would blow out the candle and I would take pictures, right? Because I was like, I just wanted to like kind of see. And so I would take pictures and I'd just kind of catch up with the group. And so I'll have to post those pictures. Actually, I'll find those pictures and I'll post them in the Reddit for Camp Cryptid so you guys can see kind of like what I'm talking about. So the woman was explaining that this ghost had like whispered in a woman's ear. So that night I'm in bed and we had a great day. It was a wonderful day. And then we get back from the tour and we go to bed and it's like 2 hours later. And so I wake up around like 3 o'clock, probably actually like maybe like 3:34ish. And I'm laying in bed and you know, like when your alarm's going off and you can hear the sound in real life and you know it's going off and you can hear it in your dream. Well, as I'm laying there and my left side is completely open, it's like basically a space in the room. I hear like a deep voice talking in my ear. And it was like plain as day going on, like, and it's to the point where like when I wake up and I start to realize someone is whispering in my ear, and it wasn't even a whisper. It was more like the person was slowly talking. It was almost like they were talking in my ear like this. And like, it was like right in my ear and I could hear it in my dream. And I was like, someone is in the room with us. Like I could literally, when I woke up, it was like one of those things where I could feel a presence in the room. And I'm getting goosebumps all over my body talking about this because this is probably one of the most terrifying things that have happened in my life. But I'm feeling this presence and I wake up and I like feel it still there right next to me. Like I can literally feel like someone is crouched down right next to me, just looking at me. And honestly, oh my God, I have goosebumps all over my body right now. I'm so sorry. And I realize it. And for me, it wasn't a positive feeling. It was a negative feeling. I felt dread. I literally felt dread in my body. I panicked and I was like, first off, I don't want anything to know that it's causing this feeling over me. So I like kept my eyes closed and I was shaking. I was literally shaking in bed, and I grabbed my computer. I sat up, I grabbed my computer. I set Netflix back up. I put X-Files or whatever I had back on at the time. It's Always Sunny. It's Always Sunny, honestly. But I put that back on and I literally latched onto my husband. I turned over and I latched onto him, and he was laying on his back. And it woke him up and he's like, is everything okay? And I literally was like, tears were coming from my eyes. I could feel someone like literally almost standing behind me at that point. It almost felt like they were just like looking. And I latched onto my husband and I said, everything's fine. We'll talk about it. I don't want to talk about it right now. We'll talk about it in the morning. So I'm like laying on him and I'm like kind of like almost like shaking. I'm like sweating. I'm like having a full on panic. And I've skydived. Like this was honestly hands down. And about 5 minutes later, my husband starts shaking out of the bed. Like his entire body was like shaking as like he was like convulsing. Like it was like, I'm not even like, I wish I was like making this up, but his entire body was like shaking out of the bed as if he was like having like an epilepsy or something. And I literally got up and I was shaking him. I was like, JJ, wake up. And like, he wouldn't wake up. And I literally at one point was yelling. He wakes up and he jumps across the room because he literally thought someone was in the room with us. So at that point, he gets up and he's like literally like facing the door. So that is my experience. I will say I have never felt a negative experience like that or even a negative energy like that in my entire life. And I have been to a lot of haunted places in my life. I've been to haunted prisons, reformatories, haunted Masonic temples. I have literally been in the woods camping in the middle of nowhere. And I have never in my life felt that feeling that I felt that time at that Airbnb. So if anybody wants to go to Edinburgh and stay in that Airbnb, please just send me a message. I will literally send you the link to it because it is still an Airbnb that you can stay at. And funny thing is I actually messaged the Airbnb person and they probably thought I was insane. And then I never heard back, but I literally was just like, has anybody else had like experiences in this place? So yeah, but if you want to stay there, let me know. I'll send you the link. And that is the most terrified I've ever been. And honestly, like, it was just a really fucking weird experience. So that is probably the most scared I've ever been. But like I said, I have been in places where I felt spirits, where my friends have felt uneasy. But that right there is probably the thing that really honestly let me know that there are definitely things that we can't see that are going on. And I am thankful now that I have had great positive experiences with entities, and very thankful that that is the only time I have felt that feeling. Plot twist, the thing took over my husband and now my husband is actually the ghost. No. So with that being said, that was my creepy story. That is one that I have always told people because that to me, just in my mind, like I'm 100% a believer. And yes, some of the things I could have experienced in the past could be rationally explained. Absolutely. I'm sure of it. But that right there is one in my soul. I am like, there's something going on 100%. So on to the next question. So the next question is from Tom, and Tom asked, why do you think we have so few cryptid stories originating from the ocean? It seems the most plausible place to find bizarre life forms. And while it isn't greatly explored, there are always lots of people out in shipping lanes, on cruises, etc. So listen, I will be the first person to tell you I don't know anything about shipping lanes and cruises and cruise routes, but I feel like a lot of times those are already preset, right? Like a cruise and cruises probably go the same exact way because it's probably mapped out and easier, right? Like it's kind of like flight routes, right? Like while there's tons of places to go to, there's probably kind of like a way that you know you're going to travel, right? There's already a route kind of established. With that being said, in my opinion, the ocean is so vast. Like when you think about how massive the ocean is and how uninhabited it is, you really kind of like realize that like there's probably a lot going on that we aren't seeing. So with that being said, that's probably my take on it, is just that like the ocean's so big. And while like there could be cruise ships, like that one cruise ship is like a tiny little dot in the middle of this vast wide ocean. Like if you go, I like watching those videos of the oil rigs out in the middle of the sea, and they turn off the lights and it's just like nothing, right? But that is such a tiny little speck in this vast amount of ocean. And I think that's just where I'm going with this. I just think that maybe the ocean is just so vast and so big. But like I said, I honestly am one of those people, I don't know anything about like shipping routes, so I could be completely off. So the next question is going to be from Mr. Magoo Samurai, and they asked, you have a chance to assemble a team to hunt down cryptids, Scooby-Doo style. Who do you pick for your crew? And do you capture, document, or kill them? So I definitely would not kill them. If anything, we would document for sure. And then capture, as far as capture, I don't know. Like it'd be one of those things like if people are encroaching and infringing on their environments and their habitats, like yes, we would probably need to find a safe habitat for them. Right. But definitely not killed. Like that's just sad. But if I had to pick a crew and we're going to do Scooby-Doo style and like I'm just picking like random characters, I'm going to say Indiana Jones, because 100% that belongs in a museum, right? Like absolutely Indiana Jones. I grew up on Indiana Jones. Like it's like part of the reason why I want to learn how to dive is to find things, and one, not only to like clean rivers and try to get like trash out of them, but also like if there's artifacts that we find, those belong in the appropriate place. Like we have to preserve that history. And I think that's maybe just the Egyptologist in me, like that's like, no, I want to go, you know, in the Dead Sea and like start finding like Egyptian artifacts to return to Cairo and be like, no, this belongs in your museum, right? Like Indiana Jones, right? But secondly, Laura Croft, because we need a badass, and hell yeah, she is also for preserving, you know, and saving artifacts, and like she's our action-packed girl. So like Indy and Laura, like come on, 2 hands down that I'd have to have. Third and fourth, I would have Mulder and Scully, because one, we need that guy who's like researching everything. We need the guy who's going to be like, hell yeah, this exists. Like, let me tell you this crazy conspiracy. But then we also need Scully to be like, hold up a second, there's a rational explanation. And lastly, I would have Blade, because Blade is my favorite character of all time. And like if shit gets out of hand and there's like bad guys, and I'm assuming like if we're doing like Scooby-Doo style, like I'm thinking like there's gonna be monsters and Blade's gonna be my man, right? So that's my team, hands down, 100%. Like we're doing it. Absolutely. I love that question. That was so fun. Camilo asked, it is wonderful that you tell us more about yourself to get to know you more. For example, if you would like to travel to see Latin America, and if you would also want to investigate sea monsters and mysteries of the Amazon jungle, it is wonderful to listen to their experiences. And 100%, honestly, I would love nothing more than to travel to Latin America. I'm telling you, between Machu Picchu and the Nazca lines and all of the crazy cool things that Latin America has, South America is just full of so much amazing history. And first off, I would love to go to some of these old temples, 100%. There are so many good folklore and legends, and I would absolutely love that more than anything. Like it's so beautiful and so wonderful and so rich in history. But I feel like the Amazon jungle is something that, like, as an 80s baby and growing up in the 90s, we were told so many things about the Amazon jungle to preserve it, right? There's so much history and so many species that we are still finding out about to this day that exists there. And it's such a rich ecosystem. And so for me, like, it's like growing up with Ferngully, right? Like you have this like love for the Amazon jungle. And while I've never been there, I deeply care about it because it is so important to the world. So absolutely. And I will say, I am not afraid of many snakes, and I am not afraid of many reptiles or amphibians. In fact, like I love lizards. Like I want an iguana so bad, and my husband is not a lizard person. So y'all need to talk to him because he's totally being irrational. But I will say, like, the only snake in this world that terrifies me is the anaconda. And I saw one for the first time in person at the Shed Aquarium in Chicago. And I am telling you, that thing gave me like it wanted to eat me vibes. So I will say I have such respect for the Amazon, and I would absolutely love to do a mystery on the Amazon, because there are so many cool mysteries. Like even just in South America, there's all the temples, right? You've got all these beautiful pyramids and temples. You've got the story of the City of Gold, which is incredible, totally amazing. And then you've got places and jungles where people haven't even gone to. So I think that there's so much beauty in Latin and South America. So 100%. And if anybody who's listening is from those areas, please always feel free to drop a line about folklore or urban legends or creatures that exist. You can go to my website. There's a little contact form, because I would absolutely love to do more episodes on that. So yes, absolutely. My default is always going to be, heck yeah, I'm down. So yes. So my last question is going to be from Rich, and Rich asked, Bigfoot versus a werewolf, Nessie versus the Kraken. Who wins the fights? What are some cryptid matchups you'd like to see? With this one, I'd say Nessie versus the Kraken. I don't want anything to happen to Nessie, because I feel like Nessie's just like a sweet little baby creature, just like doing, I just feel like a Kraken is like this like force of nature, right? Terrifying. So I would never want to see that happen. So I definitely think a Kraken would win, unfortunately. So let's protect Nessie at all costs, though. As far as a Bigfoot versus werewolf, I mean, to me, I think it depends on size, right? If we're talking like a 9-foot Bigfoot with like a werewolf that is evolved to look like a dog, right? I think then obviously size wins Bigfoot. But if we're talking like underworld werewolves where they're like 10-foot monstrous, like, that'd be a tough one. And honestly, like it just depends, because I feel like Bigfoot, if it's like 9 foot and a werewolf's like 10 foot, that's crazy. So I just think with that one, it depends on size, but I would default to say probably Bigfoot, but obviously if the werewolf is like this, like rabid, like 10 to 12 foot, like creature, that's a tough one. Cryptid matchups I'd like to see. Holy cow. Oof. Mothman versus Jersey Devil, right? Like two flying creatures, but also like, I feel like Mothman is like also very like innocent and pure. I'm like painting these cryptids as if they're like mean versus like good, right? I don't know. So yeah, I had a lot of fun answering these questions. It's just really kind of fun to kind of just sit down and have a fun little episode where it's just cryptid focused, but it's also like just y'all getting to know me. Like I said, I've been doing conventions for like, 15 years now. And a lot of you have met me at conventions or events. And so like getting to just kind of like let y'all see like my personality a little bit, and let y'all get to know me a little bit more. I just feel like it brings us all together. And with that being said, if anybody else has any questions you'd like to see for a future Q&A, please send them over. I'll keep them all documented, and we can do another Q&A maybe like in my birthday month in August. And that maybe that'll be the goal. Now, I am going to be doing another Campfire Tales episode in July. So if you do have any creepy stories or experiences that you've had, or even if there's a topic you'd like to see me cover, just make sure to go to campcryptidpod.com. There's a little contact section where you can leave your little story. And we can read it for an episode, and it's going to be a good little time. And also, I love just having a safe space for people to tell their stories, right? Like, this is a crazy wild world, and there's so many crazy cool things that happen. And I think being able to have a place where you feel comfortable and where we can all talk and enjoy stories and just story tell together is kind of like an amazing thing. So now, coming up in the next episodes as well, other than the Campfire Tales, I did have patrons vote on which cryptid they'd like to see for this month, and we had a tie. So we had a Mexican cryptids themed episode where we just go through kind of the lore of some of the top Mexican themed cryptids. And then the Jersey Devil is going to be an episode. So one of those episodes will drop next week, and then the other one will drop the week after. And then we'll probably fit in that Campfire Tales after that. And it's also great because I went to Guadalajara, Mexico for Con Comics convention, and it was an incredible experience. Like, I cannot like say how much I love Mexico and how kind the people were and just how like warm and welcoming everyone was. And it was one of my favorite experiences of my life. It was incredible to go to the town of Tequila and do a Jose Cuervo tequila tasting and to go and see how it's all made. And then to just go around the market there and just see the local vendors and people selling all of their wares and all of the things they create. I am like honored to do an episode on Mexican cryptids. So excited. And with that being said, if y'all have any good folklore or anything, please let me know because I have a good idea of the ones I'm going to highlight. But like I said, there are so many great urban legends and folklore stories that I need to do an entire season on it, right? But yeah, other than that, what I've been watching, I have been awful about watching anything horror, right? I have been awful and I feel so bad. I've been so busy this past week. I just got back from New York and it has been a wild, busy week. But I did catch up on season 4 of The Boys and that show is so funny and it's so good. And I just honestly, it is probably one of my favorite superhero shows. And so I'm very excited. And other than that, I have been watching Perfect Match because I'm trash. So I do like me some like love shows and I like those reality dating shows. I just think it's just fun to kind of like watch. And it's mindless. I can put it on while I'm answering emails or sorting things. And it's just something for background stuff. And it's like, people are wild, right? But yeah, that was my episode today. I hope y'all enjoyed the Q&A. I know it's like just a little impromptu, like fun thing, but I thought it would be really great to kind of like, if y'all had any questions, to kind of open up that line of communication, to kind of have like fun little episodes where if you have questions or you want my opinion on something, I can give it to you, you know? But yeah, with that being said, we got some cool episodes coming up and I'm really excited. And I want to thank everybody so much again for listening. Makes my day every day to basically have this little community and it's real fun. But yeah, so make sure this week you go get some good food. You treat yourself in some way. You have a great rest of your week and enjoy the weekend. And don't forget to, if you like what you're hearing, right? If we're like, okay, I love this, or if you hate it, I want to hear it either way. You can always leave a review on Apple or Spotify and just let me know how I'm doing. Or, if I should just quit and go back to my day job. Either way, I just really appreciate y'all. So thanks so much for being here with me. But yeah, I want to thank you guys again so much for hanging out for another episode. And until next time, take care.